I came into hygiene 1947 when I corresponded with Dr. Herbert Shelton after my illness, where I was given up to die. I recovered from double pneumonia, from heart disease, and also 7 relapses of typhoid fever and about 2,000 sulfite injections in me, 11 months in bed. At that time I was only 14. So at the age of 14, nothing goes much inside you. But I felt ill when I was 21 again, and I was going to become a surgeon and go to Harvard Medical School. But when I became ill again, I didn't want to spend 11 months in bed. So I asked my mother, what is this, how fasting had saved my life? And I read the first book, Toxemia Explained, by Dr. John Tilden. The second book that I read was How Nature Cures, which was turned into Introduction to Natural Hygiene later years by Herbert Shelton. That was 1947. I wrote to Herbert Shelton and he advised me to go to Dr. Benedict Lusk College in New York. We couldn't afford that, so I went to the Edinburgh College of Natural Therapeutics instead, under James C. Thompson, one of the pioneers of this sort of work in England. Graduated there, and I've been in practice since 1952. My age now is, I will be completing 74 years in a couple of months and entering my 75th birthday. Living food opens one awareness by making you a healthier human being. The more healthier you are, the greater the awareness of your body, the greater the awareness of your intellect, the greater the awareness of your spiritual well-being. And in that way, we step up from the physical to the mental and then to the ethical or spiritual values of life. The word pure means that it is not contaminated by anything. It is a kind of food which is not polluted by anything. It is a kind of living which is not polluted by our mass civilization. That is what I would call pure. The word therapy. In olden days, the word therapy really means to take care. The nurse's profession is to take care of their patient, not to dole them drugs as most of the nurses do now. So the real meaning of the word therapy comes from therapy means care. And what we are asking in care of the body, the mind and the soul is that you are paying attention, you are paying a definition of what is going on within you. You are becoming more and more aware of your gut feelings. That is really therapy. Hygienic doctors are not in the business of curing, unlike the medical doctors. Hygienic doctors want to take care of their patient, but because the word cure comes from the word curanter, which means to take care. So a hygienic doctor will take care of the patient's mind, body and spirit or feelings or ethics, whatever you call it. And in that way, we help that person to heal himself or herself. A teacher means a person who guides his student in thinking right, in feeling right, in acting right. That is the real meaning of the word doctor. Doctor means you can be a doctor of philosophy, that means you are teaching philosophy and so on. So the important thing to realize is that a doctor is a guide, a mere finger pointing the way towards the right path. Well, yes, because most of the civilized population have been conditioned by their society, by their teachers, by their medical doctors and so on, to think in terms that the cure that takes place, the healing that takes place within themselves, which is coming from outside. Whereas we in the hygienic movement say that the healing comes from within, from your own body. Living raw food is a part and parcel of natural hygiene approach. In other words, we are also in hygienic movement saying to people, eat most of your food as much as possible from live sources, so that the food is living and it is not destroyed by cooking and so on. But unfortunately, we have to think in terms that there are people in this world, especially very sick people with digestive problems and various other problems, who are not able to take this ideal food and convert it into flesh and bones. So we have to do a bit of compromising. But that compromising is nothing to do with degrading living food. It just means that even if the food is ideal, if the mechanism in which you put that food is not good enough to make use of that living food, then I'm afraid the body will suffer. So what we say is that allow the principle to be fitted to the individual rather than trying to fit the individual to the principle. The principle of living food is excellent, but as I said, some can live on living food very well and some will find it difficult. So there has to be some sort of transitory stage. The distinction is mainly that a raw fooder will prepare everything out of raw fruits and vegetables. A hygienist may prepare some of the things raw and may have some cooked food, as I mentioned in my talk just before. But really the preparation of the food on both sides is the same. If they are both eating all raw, if the hygienic group is eating a raw diet and a living food person is eating a raw diet, then the preparation of the food is more or less the same, except that sometimes in hygienic circles they chop up the food more, they what you call grate it and so on. Now that may destroy a little bit of value of the food, whereas a living food people will probably just pick their whole lettuce and eat their whole carrot like Bunny the rabbit and so on. So it's a question of very small degree. We don't have to fight over it. I think to bring a person to higher spiritual awareness depends on that person. If that person is ready, then that person will automatically reach a higher state of awareness. I don't think that just eating living food will just sort of create a nirvana come existence into a person immediately. The whole idea of spirituality means more awareness, more feeling, in-depth feeling, more care of the soul, as I have mentioned before. Now that takes time. It doesn't mean that a person has been eating living food and all raw food for 6 months, he is going to become Prophet Zoroaster or Christ or Buddha or anything like that. So we must not sort of give that idea also to people. We have to say spirituality depends on how much you want to take out of life, how much you are willing to examine yourself. Real spirituality means observation. Are you observing yourself? Are you observing how you think, how you feel, how you act? That is real spirituality. Well, I think a lot of people are like toddlers. When a young baby starts walking, see how many times the baby falls, but it picks itself up and then starts again and so on. The reason for that physically is that the baby doesn't feel so confident on its legs. Then gradually as time passes, the baby feels more confidence and it takes further steps and so on. So in the same way, a person who has embarked on a hygienic lifestyle or on a living food lifestyle sometimes will fall back. This is due to inherent cultural peer pressures, society pressures, pressures from friends, relatives, and so on. So we have to understand, I don't think one has to make people feel guilty that they have fallen. You don't ask a child that has fallen, oh, you naughty child, you have fallen down. You allow the child to get up and walk again. In the same way, I feel that we have to show compassion to people. I absolutely debar the idea that we should make people feel guilty if they have fallen down. Let them take their own time, let them take their own feelings, and gradually help them towards a better way of living. The most important tip that I can give is, do not be afraid. When you are walking through a jungle, don't look at the jungle. Just important thing is to look that at the end of the jungle there will be back into the goal that they want to reach. This is the most important part. Fear can undermine that person's confidence within himself or herself. So the most important tip who is starting out on a new lifestyle, I would say give them encouragement, give them hope, and say you will get there in the end. I coined that phrase, healthcare is self-care, 20 years ago, gave it to the American National Hygiene Society to use as their motto. The reason for that is that many people do not realize that coming into natural hygiene means that they have to take responsibility for their own health. It is not the hygienic practitioner who has got to take responsibility. He can only guide you, advise you, but you have to do the things at his guidance and at his advice. If you don't follow that, then I'm afraid you are barking up the wrong tree. So the word healthcare is self-care, means taking care of your health is within your own hands. It's your responsibility. Well, first of all, fasting enables you to begin to listen to yourself. Listening to yourself is the first step towards spirituality, if one wants to call it. When we do not listen to our body, when we do not listen to our gut feelings, when we do not listen to our heart, what is going on, then it becomes very difficult. But fasting does help you to concentrate on that aspect of your life. You go back in the past and review your lifestyle, as it were. And in that way, you gain more confidence within yourself, you see your faults, you see your strengths, and then you decide, right, these things I have to drop, these things I have to continue. The great philosophers who, what you call, advocated fasting can go right up to the time of Pythagoras, the Greek philosopher. He was into fasting. He had advised his students in philosophy to fast. He advised them to eat more living foods. He advised them to have more rest, more sleep, more exercise, and so on. So I would suggest that some of these Greek philosophers were excellent in passing this message. And then, of course, from that time onwards, lots of hygienic doctors have sort of improved on that, and gradually Shelton synthesized all the aspects of various other pioneers and wrote nearly 40 books on the aspects of natural hygiene. I met Dr. Shelton first time in 1964, and I think that was one of the elaborate moments, I could say. He has a lot of sense of humor. I can tell you a story. We went shopping, and after he had loaded his car with all the fruits and the vegetables, he said to me, "Keki, I've forgotten a couple of watermelons." I was very novice. This was my first trip to America. I didn't know that the American watermelons weigh sometimes 40 pounds. In England, we get watermelon that size. So I said, "Don't worry, you don't have to come. I'll pick these up." And then when I went to the shop, there were two big 40-pound melons, and I was carrying them one under each arm and walking, and he was laughing away. And he thought it was a great joke. But there are lots of moments. The great moment in my life was again in 1964 when he had invited me to speak at the American Natural Hygiene Society convention. At that time it was held in the Statler Hilton Hotel in New York. At that time, unfortunately, the AMA were targeting hygienic practitioners. So Dr. Scott didn't come, Dr. Banish didn't come, Dr. Esser didn't come, Dr. Gian Curzio didn't come, and one or two others didn't come. Dr. Bob Gross didn't come, and Irving Davidson, who was at that time president of the American Natural Hygiene Society, rushed into the room where I and Dr. Shelton were having a meal, and he said, "What are we going to do? I've received all these phone calls from all these people, nobody is coming. Who is going to give the lecture? There is only you and Dr. Anderson." And Dr. Shelton turned round at me. He said, "Let this young man give all the lecture." I almost had a heart attack. That was my greatest moment. I had to give 12 lectures instead of one lecture. But it was a great moment of my life. It gave me confidence, and since then I've been talking all over the world. With fasting people, I have had some very nice anecdotes, very nice people who have fasted, whom I felt would never recover. One lady came to me who was 33 or something like that. She was brought in a wheelchair with multiple sclerosis and going blind in one eye, or losing sight in that eye, not completely but gradually. We took that case on. We fasted that lady for nearly 30 odd days. They stayed with us for 3 months. At the end of 3 months, she was able to run 100 yards. So that was a very memorable case that sticks in my mind. Like that, there are several. There was one lady who came to me with a problem of gangrene of her big toe. And the doctor said, "Well, it's got to be amputated, otherwise your whole leg will be amputated," and so on. She didn't want the amputation of her toe. We started fasting her. Within a matter of 1 week, she was able to stand. All the blueness went away, and the joint was much more solid, and that person didn't have to have an operation in that way. But like that, there are so many anecdotes. Anecdotes don't help people to realize. There are two types of people who come to natural hygiene. One who is intellect and one who is desperate. A lot of people come to natural hygiene not through their intellect, unfortunately, but because they are desperate. We have to help these people. Fasting is a physiological rest. It's a mind, body, and spirit rest. You are sort of letting yourself go. You are saying to God, nature, call it what you like, "Here I am at your feet. Please try and help me to get well again." And in that way, it's a self-surrender. In fasting, you are surrendering your mind, body, and spirit to the higher powers. whatever you may call them. And in that is a great moment of self-confidence, because you know that you are only a very small piece in the whole vast cosmos. And by giving that self-surrender, you are giving your body the chance to heal. I think the most important message to people is, do not wait until you have got chronic trouble. Listen to your body. As soon as a crisis occurs in your life, try to listen to that crisis and try to change your lifestyle at that moment. Don't say, oh well, this is only very something small. I'll do that when I am probably more ill, because by that time you have given your body a greater load, and it will be very difficult for the body to overcome that load. The smaller the load, the quicker the body can overcome it. So don't wait till the last moment. Learn to listen to your body right from the beginning and put everything in proper perspective.